Welcome, Stacy Weinberg Dieve, co-chair of Moms Advocating Sustainability. So Stacy and her husband decided to move here to the Bay Area. Tell us how this happened, that you ended up exactly in Fairfax.
Well, hi Molly, thank you for having me today. I moved to Fairfax with my husband about 5 years ago, and I had moved here to be closer to my job. And my husband and I were looking at the Bay Area, but we didn't know anything about it or really know what part of the Bay Area we wanted to be. So we rented a car and we drove the entire Bay Area down to, we drove up to Santa Rosa, down to Santa Clara, over to Berkeley, and looked everywhere. And during part of our stay, we were at a bed and breakfast in Sausalito. My husband remembered being there as a child. I had never heard of Marin. I had never been to Marin.
You're from Chicago. You were in Chicago.
We were in Chicago and New York City before that. And I had never been to Marin before. And we were chatting with the man who worked behind the front desk at the bed and breakfast, and explained to him what we were doing here and what we were looking for. And after that conversation, he pulled out a map and pointed to Fairfax and said, based on what I've learned about you, this is your place. I said, I'd never heard of Fairfax. And we took our rental car and we drove up to Fairfax, and as soon as we went through the downtown, I had my head out the window pointing. I said, this is it. We're here, we're home. This is where we have to be.
We're home.
And we've loved it ever since.
Oh, we're so glad you're here, and we're so glad you're with Moms Advocating Sustainability. So tell us a little bit, what is Moms Advocating Sustainability? A little history.
Sure. Moms Advocating Sustainability, or also known as MAMAS for short, is a Bay Area nonprofit organization that's dedicated to reducing household environmental toxins for children. And we do that through advocacy work and education.
Wonderful.
MAMAS was founded in 2008 by 4 Bay Area moms who at the time were looking to fight against the light brown apple moth spraying that was happening in California. And the light brown apple moth is a pest that has done no crop damage. And in 2007, in the fall, they were sprayed down in Santa Cruz and Monterey.
And I was there.
You were there. So you remember.
I do remember.
I was
sprayed.
You were sprayed, and people were calling in sick immediately after. Birds were dying. And you may remember there was a big foam that washed up on the coast after the spray down there. And that was just the short-term health effects. The long-term health effects of pesticides are very concerning. Scientists have linked pesticides to a whole host of health issues, including cancer and Parkinson's disease, ADHD, and many more. So these 4 Bay Area moms were angry because the state of California was going to spray 9 Bay Area counties for a pest that has done no crop damage. So they mobilized and they organized, they built a coalition, they got the press involved, and in 2008 they stopped the spray. And at the time the group was called Moms of Marin Against the Spray, and after that wonderful success, they did some litigation to try to stop and that's still going on, by the way, some litigation to try to stop this program from continuing. Although we've been successful in stopping it in Marin County and the surrounding areas, we want the state to stop altogether. But in the meantime, the group decided to rename themselves as Moms Advocating Sustainability to have a wider mission and a wider reach, and continue to work on other related issues on household and environmental toxins.
So how does this answer then for you personally, for your calling and your mission? Why this group and why these women and mothers for you?
Well, like you, I was sprayed too. In New York City, West Nile virus. And I was already ill. I have endometriosis, and I had been through 10 years of different doctors and more conventional treatments and not feeling better. And I started to do some research on my own and realized there's some scientific studies that linked endometriosis to dioxins, the most dangerous family of toxic chemicals known to humans, as well as other chemicals like chlorine. And it really was Oprah calls it that aha moment that I had to say, wait a minute, I have some control over my health. And I became this mom on a mission to really, I wasn't a mom at the time, as woman on a mission, I should say, and to really rid my life of toxins. And then 9/11 happened. And my health just spiraled backwards. I got asthma afterward. I lived less than a mile from the World Trade Center.
Oh my gosh.
And then the West Nile spraying, and I thought, I got to the point where I finally left New York, and I thought, okay, maybe if I'm in a cleaner air environment, I'll feel better. And I got pregnant a week after I moved here in Marin, and I saw they were about to spray, and I thought, oh no, I'm not going through this again. Oh, and I was involved at the time on the board of directors of Sustainable Fairfax. I had found them locally in town in Fairfax, and great group. And I saw the work that mamas had started to do against the spray, and I found the co-director's email, Debbie Friedman, who's now my wonderful co-chair, and I had never met her before, and I called her. I said, "Can we have coffee? I think we need to talk. we need to get our groups together. I want to join your coalition. I want to work with you on this issue." So that's how I got involved with mamas, and we worked very closely with my role as Sustainable Fairfax with mamas for a couple of years. And when my term on the board ended at Sustainable Fairfax, I came and joined mamas.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's important. So update us a little bit on what Mama's working on now. I think there's, as a continuation of the aerial spray and some other issues. We're interested.
Yes, so we still have our court case on the light brown apple moth, but after the light brown apple moth, Mama's worked a lot on the county level on the integrated pest management program, and we really worked hard with the Board of Supervisors to make Marin one of the greenest counties when it comes to pesticide programs and implement pesticide-free zones in a lot of our open areas such as parks and playgrounds, and we're very proud of that work. Yeah. And 2 years ago, we had another issue come up that we got very involved in, which is the Programmatic Environmental Impact Report, the Pest Environmental Impact Report, the PEIR. The state of California decided to put together a PEIR that would be a blanket one to allow the state to spray against any pest, known or unknown, anywhere in the state, anytime they wish.
Oh my goodness.
And that was a huge red flag for us, because if you look even at the light brown apple moth for a pest that did no crop damage, it was really giving the state license to spray without giving the public the input on a case-by-case basis.
And certainly questionable judgment.
Exactly.
On what was appropriate.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you look at California, we're such from biological diversity perspective, it's so different, and our climates are so different. So it's really giving the state an opportunity to treat a desert area like Death Valley the exact same as the redwoods in Eureka, and the pests and the issues that are going to happen in these areas are going to be very different.
Well, at least we should be able to offer our wisdom as citizens in that region to the state level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let the farmers do that as well.
Right.
And really protect the farmers and the farm workers. We felt that was very important. So we've been engaging in a lot of conversation with the state, and we built a coalition of over 60 organizations. Wow. We've been working with the California Environmental Health Initiative very closely on this. They were formerly Stop the Spray East Bay, who we've worked with in the light brown apple moth issue. We've been working closely with them for a number of years, and we built this coalition of 60 groups.
And some big ones, like, who are the larger ones?
So some of the larger ones, the Breast Cancer Fund and the Physicians for Social Responsibility, the Center for Biological Diversity. So we have some really incredible organizations that are environmental organizations and social justice organizations, a number of different types of groups. And the report is expected to come out later this year. So we have a big...
So then we, as a coalition, have a reaction to that and possibly have a lawsuit if needed.
If needed, yes.
Okay, but we're not at the lawsuit level yet.
No, and we're hoping not to be. That's certainly a last resort, but we're certainly hoping in the meantime
they might change their mind about this.
Their mind.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And present evidence. And we're supporting independent scientists at UC Davis who have research and methods that have a less invasive approach. And we're really hoping that the state will consider
very encouraging
the science.
So there is a science that could be helpful.
Exactly. That's better for the farmers. It's better for the citizens, health-wise. So there's a lot of advantages to it, and we're really hoping the state will consider it.
So we'll keep monitoring that.
Exactly. And on a more local level, there's also the Marin Municipal Water District here in Marin is considering spraying herbicides in our watershed.
Oh dear.
Yes. And Mama's position is that no amount of herbicides or pesticides is safe, especially when it comes to our drinking water.
Right.
So we're really trying to work together with the Marin Municipal Water District to give them some options and explain why we believe that this is not a safe option.
So we've been able to kind of take a stand
Exactly.
Against that. And is the water district being quite responsive?
Absolutely. To their credit, the issue really is the French broom. That is an invasive species in the watershed, and they've been trying to control it for a long time. And French broom is a fire hazard, which of course in Marin County in the summertime is making everybody extremely nervous, and rightfully so. And it's also threatening the biological diversity in our watershed. So we do understand that this is something that needs to be removed. But we are looking at this also from a health perspective to say that we don't think herbicide should be on the table as an option.
Excellent.
And if they're going to be, even though we disagree with that, if they're going to be, we're working with them on parameters, on the length of time to spray, where, when, how much, so that way we can minimize the damage to our watershed.
So have a close relationship with our local agency.
We want to work with them. It's very important to us.
That's good. And then the GMOs.
Yes, that's been a big issue. GMOs, genetically modified organisms.
Yeah.
Mama's was very involved on the Proposition 37 in this past California state election to have genetically modified food labeled. So we were actually involved in that initiative from the very beginning in working with the California Right to Know Coalition, which is another group of a number of different organizations that are environmental organizations, faith-based, you name it, tons of different types of groups, which is really wonderful, came together.
And some real leadership from Marin County here.
Some leadership from Marin County, and this was done at a state level by a wonderful woman named Pam Larry, who initiated this, a grandmother from Chico. And she traveled to Marin a number of times to meet with some of the leaders in Marin. And Mama's, we were fortunate enough to be part of that group meeting with Pam from the beginning. And she's really such an inspiration.
She's a midwife too.
Is she?
She is.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
She's really a true example
Heroic.
of how one person can make a difference.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's really incredible, and we were impressed with her from the very beginning. And as soon as we heard her speak about her wanting to get this on the ballot in California to label GMOs, because we were not having success at the federal level.
Right.
And
we're still not having success.
Still not having success. So we said, let's have California start taking the lead.
So what happened?
And well, what happened was we were outspent 5-1.
5-1.
We had a large number of organic companies that were sponsoring the Yes on 37 initiative, which was wonderful. Strauss Farms and Dr. Bonner's.
Yeah.
A lot of wonderful,
Earth's Best, I think.
Great companies who really put not only their money but their time and promotions.
And Good Earth.
And Good Earth Natural Foods here in Fairfax, who are really involved in the Non-GMO project. They're really wonderful activists and companies and groups who mobilized, but we can't compete with the amount of money the other side was putting in. The companies like Monsanto and a lot of the companies the big agricultural food manufacturers, they were putting in, by the end of it was $1 million a day, total $46 million that they spent. So it was out-of-state money that was coming to defeat this proposition in California. And there was a lot of confusing advertising that went out intentionally, and it was an uphill battle for us. And we knew that from the beginning. But what we are proud of is that 4.5 million Californians voted yes on Prop 37, which
was what, a percent?
Which was 47%.
40, it's quite a bit.
The population.
So what about in Marin County itself?
Marin County, 62% voted yes.
Well done.
So we feel very, very proud that it was one of the highest percentages of all the counties in the state that voted yes.
Well, and I didn't realize it, but since 2004, we have outlawed the use of GMOs in agriculture in Marin County, and we're the second place in the United States, first being Mendocino County. that actually outlawed it. So, I mean, we were just going for labeling, right?
Right.
Not even outlawing.
Not even a ban, exactly.
Yeah.
Just, it would be a small label on the package of the food to say, this product may contain genetically engineered ingredients.
So, do you think that we, regular people, grasp the risks of GMOs? I mean, how is that what are the risks of ingesting GMOs? What do we know about that?
The big concern is that right now we're a human science experiment. There have not been human studies done on GMOs. So GMOs were widely introduced into our food supply in 1996 with almost zero studies on the health effects. And what's interesting is since the introduction of GMOs into our food supply, we've seen a direct correlation in the rise of food allergies and foodborne illnesses. But animal studies have been done, and the results are alarming. And they're showing infertility in animals, faulty insulin regulation, and problems with digestion, liver, spleen, you name it. It's really been a long, long laundry list of health issues. So really the big concern is that this is going untested. And the studies are also showing that the GMOs are staying in your gut flora, long, long after you've ingested them.
Because we were assured that actually it was just flushed out.
Right.
But that's been counter.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that they found the GMO toxin actually in fetuses' blood.
It was 93%, I believe, of fetuses were tested positive for.
So it's passed from the mother to the baby.
Exactly.
Not just in the mother.
Exactly. And it was thought for a long time that placenta would be a barrier to GMOs and other toxins, and it's not.
No, it's not. So the risks, so we're not sure that people actually grasp these risks on an education level of understanding.
I think people are starting to. I think there's a big movement now that organics are becoming more popular than ever, because one of the best ways to avoid GMOs is to buy organic food. And I've just read a study recently that over 40% of Americans now are incorporating some organics into their diet.
Oh, that's
which is
encouraging.
Wonderful. It's very encouraging. And I think in terms of the GMOs, though, it's really about education. And I think the concern is for a lot of people is once they do realize how pervasive GMOs are in their food supply, it's daunting.
Yeah.
GMOs are in over 70% of the processed food on our store shelves. And the biggest GMO crops right now are corn, soy, canola, cottonseed, and sugar from sugar beets. And so if you look at the ingredients in everything from crackers to cereal, baby formula, salad dressing, ice cream, hamburger buns, it contains those ingredients or a derivative thereof. So if you think about soy, that includes soy protein, isolate, soy lecithin. If you think about corn, that's high fructose corn syrup. So it's all these derivatives, and it's amazing how much it's invaded our food system.
Oh my goodness! Because it economically is successful for the industrialization of our food. So do we actually grasp what's happening to our food system and the industrialization of it? Let's talk a little bit about that and how that connects with the GMOs.
The farm subsidies have become much more of a hot button issue in politics, because right now the farm subsidies are subsidizing the corn producers and the soy producers that are
who are using the GMOs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So it's become in a lot of the Congress people who are voting to keep the Farm Bill as is come from agricultural states where the big agricultural companies are based, and there's a lot of money from the big agricultural companies going to keep the Farm Bill the way it is. So there's, I think, a big opportunity on a congressional level from that regard to have the Farm Bill overhauled. And there's been a lot of efforts from some great national organizations like the Environmental Working Group, who are working very hard
and now we have Jared Huffman over there.
Yes.
Maybe we can do something good.
Yes.
Yeah. But so there's some connection then with this industrialization of our food and Monsanto, and what's that relationship? So Monsanto then not only has the pesticides and the GMOs, they're changing the seeds. Help me clarify this connection.
Well, biotechnology companies have a patent on seeds. So it's legal in this country to patent a seed. And what's interesting, if you look at a company, some of these biotechnology companies are also manufacturers of pesticides. The whole point of a genetically modified crop is it's really two types of GMO crops. One is a type of crop that's able to withstand higher doses of pesticides and herbicides. And the second is a type of crop that has Bt toxin, which is a type of herbicide that's already genetically engineered into the plant itself.
In the seed.
In the seed.
In the seed.
In the seed. So basically, you have a lot of the biotechnology companies who are arguing that by doing this, they're going to decrease the use of herbicides that are sprayed on our food. But in reality, it's completely different. And what we're seeing is an increased use of herbicides on our food. So not only are some of these companies owning the seeds itself and having profiting and having such an influence over our food supply, but they're also selling more of their herbicides to be sprayed onto the food. And that also impacts not only from a health perspective of the GMOs that you're ingesting itself, but then you're also ingesting and exposing farm workers to more pesticides.
Oh my goodness.
Or herbicides.
Yeah. So one major lesson here is to stop eating processed food and to eat real food that is actually brought from a farm to a market to you, and that you may know who actually raised that food.
Absolutely, and that is certainly the best thing. But I also, as a full-time working mom, I understand that that's not always the easiest thing to do, and sometimes you need to grab and go, and you have a craving for potato chips, and that's okay. But the solution there is to look for foods that are verified by the Non-GMO Project. It's a wonderful nonprofit organization that does actual testing of foods to make sure they have not been not only using genetically engineered ingredients, but contaminated.
Oh, contaminated.
There is a risk of contamination, especially for plants like canola that can cross-pollinate with their organic versions.
So one field to the other.
Exactly.
If they're near each other.
Exactly.
Oh dear. Yeah. So
look for the non-GMO, project verified.
And I think that's
snacks.
becoming more and more. I see it at Good Earth frequently with the foods that I want to get. So what would you want to tell other mothers about creating a better world for their children? What can they do to make a better world, and tie it in with mamas and how we can help you? But we need, I think we're driven as mothers to protect our children and our grandchildren. Definitely. And so we can personally do this, but on a broader level.
I think the most important thing to remember is that one small change can make a huge, huge difference. I think having these types of conversations about pesticides and GMOs and looking at our food system, it can be very, very overwhelming. And our intent is not to scare anybody or make somebody feel like they just have to bury themselves because it's too much. And we've seen that a lot. So what we're really advocating is even just changing one of your purchasing habits, or just writing one letter to a company and explaining to them why you're stopping to buy their product because maybe it contains GMOs. Those little actions make a huge, huge difference. And it's certainly not realistic that everyone's going to be perfect. But for people who are really passionate about this issue, we're working tirelessly at Mamas to not only do advocacy work, but to do outreach and education. And we have open board positions, and we have also, for people who don't have that kind of time or energy for a commitment, we have smaller projects that we can certainly use some help in. Right now we're a group of 5 steering committee members, and we have this amazing advisory board, including 2 local doctors. But we could always use more help, and on our website, which is momsadvocatingsustainability.org, you can sign up for our e-blasts and our blog posts. And we don't send around a lot, but we do have action alerts, especially for local California residents on some of these issues we've been talking about. You can find us on Facebook too.
It's so important to understand, that we can have effect on our lives and our children's lives and on our world. Would you say that it's good to start thinking about what's happening at your children's school? Let's say what pesticides may be at use in the school or around the school, and clearly one wouldn't want to have pesticides in near one's house, but also thinking about where your children are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even just looking at the food, like we talked about, organic food, it can be more expensive in certain areas, but in Marin here, we're so blessed to have this amazing farmers market. And the Marin Agricultural Institute did a study that compared in-season organic produce to that of Safeway and Whole Foods, and found that the farmers market produce was cheaper on almost every account.
Oh my gosh.
So organic food doesn't have to be more expensive. And in the times when it is, the Environmental Working Group has this wonderful list called the Dirty Dozen, and another one called the Clean 15 that helps you prioritize your organic budget. So I think that's very, very important. And for people on a budget, meat and dairy are even more important than vegetables, since animals are eating this GMO feed. But so there's really a lot of ways you can look to your own. Start small. Start in your own house. Start in your school, and start talking to your family, talking to your friends. That's really the best way, I think, to educate people is through your network.
Yeah, and we're also connected, and we're also committed to helping our children, and we have so much concern about where they're going to school and where we live. I mean, you chose to be in Fairfax here, and had to move out of New York and Chicago, and now it seems to be our job to continue to do this, and work together to do so as mothers. So I'd love. You're talking about moms advocating sustainability and enabling us to understand that we can be helpful and involved and make a difference in our children's lives.
We do. Moms, us as moms, we're fiercely protective of our children, and moms have a very strong voice.
They have a very strong voice.
Very strong voice, and we should use it.
And we should stand up and understand that we can use our voices just as you are, Stacy, for us. So thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for being in Marin and helping us and continuing the legacy and the strength of what moms have done here in Marin County.
Thank you, Molly.
You're welcome.